Let me speak to you directly, as one man to another. If you are over 60 and find yourself waking up several times a night to use the bathroom, struggling with a weak stream, or feeling your confidence and masculinity quietly slipping away, I want you to know this. It is not simply age. The shocking truth is that in many cases, the root driver of your prostate problems is not what you've been told. It may not be genetics, bad luck, or an unavoidable destiny. It may be something far simpler, something hiding in plain sight inside your kitchen cabinet. A deficiency of basic vitamins that your body has quietly needed for years. My name is Dr. Jonathan Prescott. I am a board-certified urologist and men's health specialist with more than 3 decades of experience sitting across from men just like you, men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s who thought the only way forward was medication or invasive surgery. I have seen their frustration, I have heard the late-night phone calls from their wives, and I have witnessed transformations that remind me why I chose this profession in the first place. Over the years, I've come to understand that the body carries a natural power to heal if only we provide it with what it has been missing. Here's the paradox. You've been told prostate growth is inevitable, that it is simply what happens as men grow older. Yet the truth I've seen in my patients is different. In many cases, the prostate can be soothed, softened, and even reduced without pharmaceuticals, without scalpels, through something as natural as correcting a few key deficiencies. 5 overlooked vitamins can work together to target the root causes of prostate enlargement. And by the end of this talk, you'll know exactly what those vitamins are, how they work inside your body, and the steps you can take to reclaim your nights of restful sleep, your days of confidence, and the dignity every man deserves. Imagine it, sleeping through the night without rushing to the bathroom, feeling strong again when you rise in the morning, no longer calculating where the nearest restroom is before you leave the house. That's the kind of freedom men tell me they rediscover once their prostate begins to calm down. And stay with me, because in just a few moments, I will reveal the single most powerful vitamin I've seen shrink the prostate faster than anything else in all my years of practice. Before we dive in, let me pause here. If this message resonates with you, I invite you to do 3 things right now. First, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. That way you'll never miss another important conversation about your health. Second, leave me a comment. Type 1 if this speaks to you, type 0 if you feel it doesn't. I read those comments and they shape what I share next. And third, I want you to press the like button, not just as a formality, but as a signal to yourself that you are committed to taking your health seriously. And let me give you something in return for that simple gesture. When you press like "here's my wish for you," may your nights grow quieter so you wake rested and not restless. May your confidence as a man remain unshaken no matter your age, and may the years ahead bring you not decline but renewed strength, dignity, and presence. I believe blessings follow small actions, and sometimes a click of support is the first step toward reclaiming what you thought was lost. Now that you understand why these simple vitamins may hold the hidden key to prostate health, let's begin. We will start with the first, and perhaps the most overlooked of all, the one deficiency I see in nearly every older man who walks into my office. When I look back over 30 years of practice, one pattern is almost impossible to ignore. Nearly every man who walks into my office with an enlarged prostate shows signs of low vitamin D. It is what I call the silent deficiency. You do not feel it at first. There are no dramatic alarms going off in your body. Perhaps you notice some fatigue or your bones ache a little more than they used to. But for most men, the real damage is happening quietly, in places you cannot see, inside the tissue of the prostate where inflammation is allowed to smolder, cells multiply unchecked, and the gland begins to swell. Vitamin D is often thought of as the bone vitamin, the one your doctor mentions when warning you about osteoporosis. But gentlemen, it is so much more than that. Vitamin D regulates hundreds of processes in the body. Within the prostate, it acts as a peacekeeper. When your vitamin D levels are healthy, immune cells remain calm, inflammation is controlled, and hormones stay balanced. But when those levels fall too low, testosterone and its powerful cousin DHT begin to tilt out of proportion. DHT fuels prostate growth, pressing on the urethra, making every trip to the bathroom a test of patience and endurance. Without enough vitamin D, the balance tips in the wrong direction, and suddenly nights are restless, mornings are weary, and manhood itself feels compromised. I recall one patient, Martin, a 68-year-old retired carpenter from Michigan. He came to me exhausted, his wife describing how he woke 5 or 6 times every night to stagger to the bathroom. He was seriously considering surgery. But when we tested his blood, his vitamin D levels were nearly non-existent. We corrected that deficiency with a high-quality supplement, and within weeks he reported sleeping through the night. I still remember the look in his eyes when he told me, "Doc, I feel human again." For Martin, vitamin D did what no prescription had been able to do. The truth is, many older men are silently deficient for reasons that are not their fault. Decades ago, you may have spent more time outdoors, mowing the lawn, working on the farm, golfing with friends. But as the years pass, life often pulls you indoors. Add to that the natural decline in the skin's ability to convert sunlight into vitamin D, the widespread use of sunscreen, and the long winter months. And deficiency becomes the rule, not the exception. This matters because vitamin D deficiency does not simply weaken your bones, it fuels inflammation throughout the body. Inside the prostate, that inflammation makes the gland stiffer, more swollen, and more irritable. Blood flow is restricted, nerves become sensitized, and the cycle of urgency and weak stream continues night after night. But when vitamin D is restored, something remarkable happens. The tissues soften. The constant pressure on the bladder fades. Nights become restful again. It is as though the body finally exhales after years of silent tension. Now you might ask, "Doctor, how much is enough?" That depends on the man, his baseline levels, and his lifestyle. Some benefit from modest sun exposure, but for most men over 60, a supplement is the surest way to restore healthy levels. I recommend quality over quantity. Cheap pills often lack the potency or form that the body absorbs best. Paired with a diet rich in fatty fish, eggs, and fortified dairy, supplementation can be transformative. Let me share another story. James, a 72-year-old Vietnam veteran, came into my office with tears in his eyes. He told me he felt chained to the restroom. He planned his entire day around where he could find a bathroom. His vitamin D was critically low. We started him on supplementation, and within 2 months, his nightly bathroom visits had dropped from 7 to 2. He said to me, "Dr. Prescott, you've given me my freedom back." That is the quiet but profound power of this so-called simple vitamin. And it is not just about the prostate. Adequate vitamin D strengthens the immune system, protects against infections, and even supports mood and cognitive clarity. Many of my patients report not only sleeping better, but also feeling sharper, more energetic, more like themselves again. Gentlemen, if you are over 60, I cannot emphasize enough how vital this nutrient is. Too many of you have been led to believe that waking all night, feeling drained, or struggling with weak flow is just the price of aging. But the truth is, much of that suffering comes from deficiencies that can be corrected. So I challenge you, have your vitamin D checked. Talk to your doctor, or simply begin with safe, appropriate supplementation. Because when you restore what your body has been missing, you may find that symptoms you thought were permanent begin to loosen their grip. And here is the part that excites me as a physician. While vitamin D is the silent protector, the peacekeeper, there is another nutrient that acts as a conductor. It guides calcium, manages hormones, and influences growth in ways that can dramatically reshape your prostate health. This nutrient is overlooked by nearly every man I meet, and yet it may be the missing piece that brings balance back to your body. Gentlemen, there is a vitamin that almost no one talks about, and yet in my experience it can mean the difference between a prostate that continues to stiffen year after year and one that begins to soften, ease, and let go of its grip on your life. That vitamin is K2, the quiet conductor, the hormone balancer. Now, many of you have probably heard of vitamin K in the context of blood clotting, but K2 is different. Its role is subtle yet profound. Imagine a conductor in front of an orchestra. Without his guidance, the music is chaotic. With his baton, everything falls into harmony. That's exactly what K2 does inside your body. It directs calcium to where it belongs, into your bones and teeth, and away from where it doesn't, like your arteries, kidneys, and yes, your prostate. Without enough K2, calcium tends to wander. It drifts into soft tissues, hardening places that should remain supple. In the prostate, that means stiffer tissue, more inflammation, and an already enlarged gland feeling even more rigid and uncomfortable. Over time, this calcification can make urination even more difficult, as if the gland itself is turning to stone. I'll never forget one patient, Arthur, a 70-year-old retired truck driver from Ohio. He sat across from me, weary from years of interrupted sleep and constant bathroom trips. Another doctor had told him surgery was his only option. But when I reviewed his nutrition, I saw a glaring deficiency, no source of vitamin K2 in his diet. We introduced a high-quality supplement and adjusted his meals to include K2-rich foods like eggs, cheese, and fermented products. Within months, Arthur returned with a steadier flow, less pressure on his bladder, and a newfound sense of comfort. He told me, Dr. Prescott, "It feels like my body finally loosened its grip." That is the quiet balancing power of K2, but K2's story doesn't end with calcium. Its relationship with vitamin D is where the real magic happens. D provides the peacekeeping, calming inflammation, and restoring balance. K2 acts like the architect, ensuring calcium follows the right blueprint. Together, they regulate the hormones that influence prostate size, particularly the balance between testosterone and DHT. When these two vitamins work in harmony, men often experience softer tissue, fewer nighttime interruptions, and greater freedom to live their days without constantly scanning for the nearest restroom. This is why I tell my patients, you cannot think of vitamins in isolation. Each one has its role, but together they create a symphony of health. Without K2, vitamin D's benefits are incomplete and calcium becomes a double-edged sword. With K2, the body moves back into balance. Another important point is that most modern diets are shockingly low in K2. Decades ago, traditional foods like fermented vegetables, grass-fed dairy, and organ meats provided ample amounts. But today, with processed diets and industrial farming, deficiency is practically guaranteed unless you are intentional. That's why so many men I see, strong, hardworking men who took care of themselves their whole lives, arrive at my office missing this one quiet conductor. Gentlemen, when you restore K2, the difference is not always immediate, but it is deep and lasting. Tissue softens. Calcium retreats from places it should not be. The prostate feels less rigid. The bladder is under less pressure. And perhaps most importantly, you begin to feel as though your body is not working against you but with you again. I tell you this because too many of you have been led to believe that surgery or endless prescriptions are your only paths forward. But the truth is, sometimes the body simply needs its missing conductor to bring order back to the music. And here's what excites me as a physician. While K2 restores balance and guides calcium back into its rightful place, there is another vitamin that shields your prostate cells from daily damage. It defends against the silent rust of aging, protecting delicate tissues and giving them a chance to heal. And once you understand how this antioxidant shield works, you'll see why it has become one of my most trusted allies in helping men reclaim their strength. Gentlemen, let's talk about a force that works quietly but steadily against your prostate every single day: oxidative stress. You can't see it, you can't feel it directly, but it is as real as rust on an old car engine. Day after day, it corrodes tissue, weakens cells, and slowly steals away the strength and vitality you once took for granted. And one of the most effective shields I've found in 3 decades of practice, the armor that stands between your prostate and that silent rust, is vitamin E. Now, most men know vitamin E as something they read on the back of a supplement bottle or maybe as an ingredient in skin cream. But the truth is, for your prostate, vitamin E is far more than a cosmetic nutrient. It is a powerful antioxidant, a shield that protects delicate tissues from the damage caused by free radicals, those unstable molecules generated by stress, poor diet, pollution, and yes, simply the passing of time. When you are young, your body's natural defenses are usually strong enough to keep oxidative stress at bay. But once you pass 60, those defenses weaken. That's when the prostate, already vulnerable to hormonal shifts and inflammation, begins to suffer. Without sufficient protection, oxidative stress eats away at the gland cell by cell. The result? Swelling, rigidity, discomfort, and that endless cycle of weak flow and urgency that robs you of peace at night and confidence by day. This is where vitamin E steps in. I think of it as a shield, layered armor surrounding each prostate cell, guarding it from the invisible assaults of aging. When vitamin E is restored, the gland is no longer under constant attack. The tissue has a chance to rest, to soften, to begin healing. I remember one patient, Leonard, a 73-year-old retired pastor. He described feeling as though his bladder was trapped in a vice. Every trip to the restroom was uncomfortable, and he lived in constant fear of leaking or not making it in time. He told me, "Doctor, I stopped sitting through church services because I couldn't focus. I was too busy worrying if I'd make it to the bathroom. We adjusted his nutrition and added a natural vitamin E supplement, one with mixed tocopherols. The form research shows to be most effective. Months later, Leonard returned with tears in his eyes. For the first time in years, he could sit through an entire service without panic. His flow was stronger, the urgency had eased, and his peace of mind had been restored. That is the quiet power of vitamin E. And it's not rare. I've seen story after story like Leonard's. When oxidative stress is reduced, when cells are finally shielded, the prostate softens and pressure on the urethra decreases. Urination becomes easier, more complete, less painful. And beyond the physical relief, men often describe a sense of lightness, vitality, even freedom, because their bodies are no longer locked in a constant hidden battle. But I must stress something important. Not all vitamin E is created equal. Many inexpensive supplements use synthetic forms that the body does not absorb well. The natural form, especially when combined with a diet rich in nuts, seeds, and green vegetables, works in harmony with the body. This combination nourishes cells, restores balance, and quietly protects your prostate day after day. Let me give you another perspective. Imagine a soldier in battle without armor. He may stand tall, but he is vulnerable to every strike. That is the prostate without vitamin E. Now picture that same soldier with strong, well-fitted armor. The strikes still come, but they glance off. The soldier has room to breathe, to fight back, to endure. That is what vitamin E provides, breathing room for your prostate, a chance for your body to heal instead of simply defend. One more patient comes to mind, Robert, 66, a former engineer. He came to me frustrated after trying multiple medications, each with its own side effects, none of which brought true relief. We focused on lifestyle, more vegetables, seeds, and a natural vitamin E complex. 3 months later, he told me, "Doctor, I didn't realize how much of my energy was being stolen by this problem until it started to ease. I feel lighter, calmer, even my wife noticed." That is the kind of transformation that fuels my conviction as a physician. Gentlemen, I want you to see vitamin E not as a miracle cure, but as a shield, not an instant fix, but a steady defender. In the long war against oxidative stress, you cannot afford to be unprotected. And when your cells are shielded, when the gland is guarded, you gain space for comfort, for strength, for dignity. Now, here is where things get even more compelling. Vitamin E guards your cells from damage, but there is another nutrient that steps into the fire itself. While E defends against the daily assaults, this vitamin fights inflammation head-on, cooling the burn inside your prostate and giving deeper healing a chance to begin. And once you understand how this nutrient works, you'll see why it may be the missing piece in your journey toward lasting relief. Gentlemen, before I go further into the next vitamin, I want to pause for something important. This channel isn't just me speaking into a microphone, it's a conversation. I read your comments, I read your emails, and I take them seriously. Some of them encourage me, some of them challenge me, and yes, a few make me smile at their blunt honesty. So today, let's take a few questions from the last video and give them the attention they deserve. Question 1: Doctor, can vitamins really replace surgery? This is one I hear often, and the honest answer is not always. There are men whose prostates have grown so large or whose bladders have been so damaged that surgery is the safest option. But here's the point: many men are rushed to surgery too soon. In my practice, I've seen men who were told surgery was inevitable, only to find that once their nutrient deficiencies were corrected, their symptoms improved enough that they no longer needed the knife. Vitamins aren't replacements, they are foundations. Surgery should be the last resort, not the first tool pulled out of the bag. Question 2: I tried vitamin D for 2 weeks and nothing changed. Am I wasting my time? 2 weeks is barely enough time for your body to register the correction, my friend. Think of it like watering a dry tree. You don't pour water on the roots for a fortnight and then declare the tree dead. You keep nourishing it, and over time the leaves return. With vitamins, it can take weeks to months for tissues to respond, inflammation to calm, and balance to restore. Be patient. Give your body time. The slow, steady approach often yields the most lasting results. Question 3: My urologist says supplements are nonsense. What do you say? I say your urologist is half right. Supplements without context, random bottles pulled off a shelf, can be nonsense. But science doesn't lie. Study after study has shown the impact of vitamin D, E, C, K2, and B complex on inflammation, circulation, and prostate tissue. The key is not just popping pills, but understanding the why, the how, and the when. I always tell my patients, supplements are tools, not toys. In the right hands, they can change lives. In the wrong hands, they are just expensive candy. Question 4. If vitamins are so powerful, why don't hospitals prescribe them? This is where the system shows its cracks. Hospitals are built to respond to crisis. They prescribe drugs, perform procedures, and treat emergencies because that's what the system rewards. Prevention and nutrition are harder to monetize, harder to patent, and frankly, less glamorous than a new laser or surgical robot. But gentlemen, your body doesn't care about market forces. It cares about balance, nourishment, and repair. Just because the hospital doesn't hand it out doesn't mean it isn't powerful. Question 5. This sounds like another internet gimmick. Prove you're different. I respect the skepticism. You should question everything, especially when it comes to your health. Here's my answer. I'm not here to sell you bottles or miracle cures. I'm here to share what I've seen across 3 decades with real men in real pain. I've stood in exam rooms with farmers, veterans, factory workers, men who didn't want hype, they wanted their lives back. And when they corrected these deficiencies, many did just that. That's not a gimmick, that's medicine at its most honest. Now I want to thank each of you who writes in, whether with encouragement, with doubt, or with tough questions. You make this channel real. And if you're listening today, I'd love to hear from you too. Type yes in the comments if you believe natural solutions deserve a fair chance. Type no if you think I'm wasting my time. Either way, your voice matters. Gentlemen, let me leave you with this. Disagreement sharpens truth. Your skepticism forces me to be clearer, your encouragement fuels me to keep speaking, and your stories remind every man here that he's not alone. That's how we grow stronger together. Now, with that said, let's move on. Because while vitamin E shields your cells and your questions sharpen our conversation, there is another vitamin waiting for its turn, the one that cools the fire burning inside your prostate, calming the irritation so many of you describe in painful detail. If there is one word I hear again and again from men who sit in my office, it is burning. Burning when they urinate, burning deep inside the pelvis, burning frustration that nothing seems to calm it down. Gentlemen, that burning is inflammation, and it is one of the most destructive forces working against your prostate. For decades, you've been told inflammation is just part of aging, something to accept. But in my 30 years of practice, I've seen otherwise. And one of the most powerful tools I use to cool that fire, to restore peace where there was only irritation, is vitamin C. Most people know vitamin C as the immune booster, the cold fighter, the reason we eat oranges in winter. But for the prostate, its role is far more critical. Vitamin C works like a fire extinguisher. It calms swelling, strengthens fragile tissues, and helps them repair. Without it, the prostate stays irritated. The bladder stays hypersensitive, and every trip to the restroom becomes urgent and unsatisfying. With it, the flames subside, the swelling eases, and men finally feel relief. I think of one patient in particular, Harold, a 69-year-old retired mechanic. He came to me defeated. "Doctor," he said, "it feels like I can never empty my bladder no matter how many times I try." His labs told the story: low vitamin C, a diet full of processed foods, almost no fresh produce. We added citrus fruits, peppers, berries, and a targeted supplement. Within weeks, the burning sensation eased. Within months, his urgency decreased, and for the first time in years, he could take his wife out without scanning every block for a restroom. That's not just a medical change, that's freedom restored. The reason vitamin C works so effectively is because it is central to tissue healing. Collagen, the protein that supports your bladder walls and the lining of your prostate, relies on vitamin C for strength. When you are deficient, tissues become fragile, irritated, and slower to repair. When you restore vitamin C, those tissues rebuild sturdier, calmer, more resilient. That means less urgency, less pain, and fewer sleepless nights. And here's something many men don't realize: vitamin C doesn't work in isolation. Paired with vitamin E, the two act like partners, one fighting the flames of inflammation, the other shielding cells from oxidative damage. Together, they create an environment where the prostate can truly heal. This is why men who combine these nutrients often notice not just symptom relief, but a deeper sense of strength and vitality returning. Another story comes to mind. Dennis, a 74-year-old former teacher, told me he dreaded long car rides because of his prostate. He would map every bathroom along the highway, embarrassed to travel with his grandchildren. His vitamin C levels were low. After we corrected his diet and introduced a high-quality supplement, he came back months later with a smile. "Doctor," he said, "I drove 4 hours straight last weekend and never once felt the panic. My grandkids didn't even notice. I felt normal again." That word normal is one I hear often when inflammation is finally calmed. Of course, deficiency is common. As men age, appetites change. Many rely more on processed foods, less on fresh produce. Add in years of low-level stress, smoking, or alcohol, and vitamin C gets drained even faster. The result is a body primed for irritation. Correcting it isn't complicated, but it does require intention. A glass of orange juice won't cut it. You need consistent intake through fruits, vegetables, and if needed, supplements to truly restore balance. Some men ask me, "Doctor, how fast will I notice a difference?" For some, relief comes in weeks. For others, it takes longer. But the key is this: once you give your body the tools it's been missing, healing begins. And healing, even if slow, is always better than silent decline. Gentlemen, let me speak plainly. You do not have to accept burning, urgency, and restless nights as the price of getting older. You do not have to surrender your dignity to an inflamed prostate. Vitamin C is not a miracle, but it is a faithful ally. It cools the fire. It strengthens your tissues. It restores calm where there was only irritation. And here's where it becomes truly inspiring. While vitamin C puts out the fire, there is another group of nutrients that fuels your body's highways, opening circulation, restoring energy, and breathing life back into your system. These nutrients not only support your prostate, but they also reawaken your entire vitality. And when men discover their power, the change can be felt in every corner of their lives. Gentlemen, let's step back for a moment. Up until now, we've spoken about calming inflammation, balancing hormones, and shielding your prostate cells. But there's another piece of the puzzle, one that many men overlook yet feel every single day. I'm talking about energy, fatigue, that dragging sense that your body is slowing down in every way. One of the most common complaints I hear in my practice is not just about the prostate, it's about exhaustion. Men tell me, "Doctor, I'm tired all the time. I don't have the stamina I used to. Even when my prostate isn't giving me trouble, I feel drained." That's where the family of B vitamins comes in. The B complex, particularly B6, B12, and folate, are crucial for two reasons. They fuel energy production and they protect circulation. Together, they lower a harmful substance in the blood called homocysteine. When elevated, homocysteine damages blood vessels, stiffens tissues, and fuels inflammation. I often describe it to my patients as a silent toxin. It clogs the highways of your body, cutting off nutrients and oxygen to the very tissues that need them most. And yes, the prostate is one of the first organs to feel the impact. By reducing homocysteine, B vitamins open those highways again. Blood flows more freely. Nutrients are delivered where they are needed. Oxygen returns to tissues that were starved. The result is not only a healthier prostate, but a stronger, more vibrant body overall. I'll never forget Samuel, a 67-year-old former machinist. He came to me saying, "Doctor, it feels like every part of me is slowing down: my mind, my body, my energy, everything." His labs showed low B12 and folate. We started supplementation along with dietary changes, more leafy greens, beans, and fish. A few months later, he returned with a grin. Not only had his nighttime trips to the bathroom eased, but he told me, "I can think more clearly. I have stamina again. Even my wife says I look alive." That's the power of restoring what your body has quietly been missing. Gentlemen, I want you to understand that the prostate is not an isolated organ. It lives in a body that depends on circulation, energy, and vitality. If those larger systems fail, the prostate will always be under strain. The B vitamins nourish not just one gland, but your entire system. They are like turning the lights back on in a dim house. Suddenly, every room is brighter, clearer, more alive. Of course, deficiency is common. As men age, stomach acid decreases, making B12 harder to absorb. Diets heavy in processed foods strip away folate and B6. Add stress, alcohol, or certain medications, and levels plummet even faster. The result: fatigue, poor circulation, rising homocysteine, and yes, worsening prostate symptoms. Correcting this doesn't require anything exotic. Eggs, fish, leafy greens, beans, and quality supplements can restore balance. And once restored, men often describe a transformation that is as emotional as it is physical. They feel capable again, they feel clear-headed, they feel strong. And this is the point I want to drive home. Restoring your prostate health isn't just about shrinking a gland. It's about reclaiming your vitality as a man. It's about waking with energy, moving with confidence, and living with clarity. The B vitamins play a crucial role in that restoration. Now, as we draw near the end of this journey through the 5 overlooked vitamins, let's bring everything together. Because what I've seen in 3 decades is this. Too many men believe they are powerless, when in reality, their bodies are simply missing the foundations they need to thrive. And in the conclusion, I want to show you why this truth is hidden from so many and how you can begin reclaiming your strength today. Gentlemen, after more than 30 years of listening to men pour out their frustrations, their fears, and their hopes across my desk, I can tell you one thing with certainty. Your prostate problems are not simply the cruel hand of aging. They are not a punishment for growing older. More often than not, they are the quiet result of your body missing what it has needed all along. We've walked together through the silent deficiency of vitamin D, the peacekeeper that calms inflammation and restores balance. We've seen how vitamin K2 acts like a conductor, guiding calcium to where it belongs and keeping your tissues soft and flexible. We explored vitamin E, the shield that guards your cells from daily assaults, and vitamin C, the extinguisher that cools the burning fire of irritation. Finally, we looked at the B vitamins, the energy builders and circulation boosters that restore vitality across your whole body. Each of these nutrients plays its role, but together they form something greater than the sum of their parts, a natural defense system. When restored, they don't just shrink the prostate, they give you back your nights of uninterrupted sleep, your days free from constant worry, and the dignity of feeling strong and present again. I have watched men walk into my office defeated and walk out weeks or months later renewed. I've seen veterans who thought they'd lost their strength discover it again. I've seen grandfathers who were embarrassed to travel with their families regain the freedom to go where they please. And I've seen men who had resigned themselves to surgery find relief by simply correcting what their bodies had lacked for decades. But here is the hidden truth no one tells you. These answers aren't popular because they aren't profitable. A vitamin cannot be patented. A balanced diet doesn't pay for itself in hospital machines. And so the system you trust often overlooks the simplest, most natural solutions. That's why I'm here to give you the knowledge you were never told, because once you understand the truth, you are no longer powerless. Gentlemen, let me leave you with this. Your future does not have to be nights chained to the bathroom, days filled with fatigue, and years of decline. Your body has an extraordinary ability to heal when given the right support. The question is, will you take that first step? If this message resonates with you, do something simple right now. Subscribe so you never miss another conversation that could change your life. Leave a comment, share your story, your struggles, your victories, and press the like button not just to support this channel, but as a declaration that you refuse to surrender your vitality. And as you do, let me send you my wish. May your nights grow quiet and restful. May your strength return in ways that surprise you. And may your years ahead be marked not by decline, but by dignity, presence, and renewed manhood. Gentlemen, the hidden truth no one tells you is often the very truth that sets you free. Take it with you, act on it, and discover for yourself what I've seen in thousands of men, that the path back to strength is not lost, it has only been waiting for you to find it.